Hi, so this has been a rough week. Went to the doctor with my newborn because he had a cold, or that's what we thought. And then when I got there, the doctor said that he was not doing well at all. So my baby turned 1 month on Monday, and we didn't even celebrate because he was so sick. He wasn't drinking well. He was coughing. He had a runny nose, and he was also congested. So we thought it was a cold, and we wanted to treat his mucus. So my partner actually got this cool apparatus at the pharmacy, which you can use to suck out the mucus from their nose. It helped a little bit because it made him drink a little bit more. We then thought, okay, this thing is working, but let's book an appointment just to make sure that we are treating the right symptoms and whether we are treating all the symptoms. So we called him on that Monday. He was fully booked. So he had an availability on the Tuesday. The next morning came, ready for the appointment, and baby seemed more relaxed. So I thought maybe we should cancel the appointment because he seems to be getting better. Good thing we didn't. I felt like I wanted to throw up when the doctor told me that your child is having difficulty breathing. He is not well at all. So the most common telling signs that baby is not getting enough oxygen or not breathing well is his nostrils will flare whenever he takes a breath. And that's something I didn't even pick up when we were at home. It's something that the doctor pointed out when he was assessing baby. And then also his rib cage would retract, making his tummy to be bulging. And that's also something I didn't pick up. I only saw it when the doctor was showing it to me. And then the other thing is that they're not drinking as much. So if they drink less than half of what they normally should drink, then that also indicates that there's a problem with them not breathing properly. I had my 4-year-old toddler with me because the plan was, if I want to take baby to the doctor, after that, we're going to go to the shop and buy him a toy with his piggy bank money. And he was so excited about it. And then the doctor said, we have to admit him. He has to stay there. So obviously I will need to stay with baby and daddy needs to come get him. The weirdest thing though, toddlers aren't allowed in the pediatrician ward, not even for a little while. So they took my baby and said, I must make a plan with Noah. Luckily, I have daddy that can come pick him up. But who would I have called if I didn't have daddy? What would have happened to my toddler? How stressful must it be for a single parent in a similar position? So they placed my little angel on a drip since he's not drinking well. So they were feeding him a bit through the drip. And they were giving him oxygen because he was not breathing well. As a parent, seeing your child like that. So then the sister told me that they have sent bloods to the lab to check the level of infection, and they will get the results before the end of the day. Doctor comes in later at the end of the day, and he then checks to see if baby has all his equipment, linked up, and says, okay, cool, now we just have to monitor him. And then I asked him, okay, but what does the blood test say? And then he says, no, we don't really look at the blood results. We just monitor the baby and see if he's getting better. And so I said, okay, cool, but can you tell me what the results are? And then he checks on his phone and he asked me my baby's name, which was a bit odd for me. Like, you said everything is fine, but you don't know my baby's name. So do you know what patient you are treating? And he checks the results and he sees that there's a possibility for pneumonia. He then requests that the sisters immediately make an appointment by the X-ray department because they have to check my baby's lungs as soon as possible. Now it's the end of the day, the department was ready to close and the sister says, but this is going to be impossible to get that done now. But luckily they could get it done and I had to take my baby to the X-ray department. Lo and behold, he has to be treated for pneumonia too. They could then immediately put him on the antibiotics that's needed. Parents, always ask questions. Do not just assume that the staff know what they are doing and that they have everything under control. Sometimes they are so overwhelmed with work that they forget certain things. Even if you sometimes feel like you're being overbearing or unnecessary, I was recording his oxygen levels with the nurses. I was recording his breathing with and without the nurses. I was making recordings and then counting the breaths per minute. So bronchiolitis is common in infants and newborns, and bronchitis is common in toddlers. Something my firstborn had when he was 2 years old, and he also ended up in hospital. So they are both caused by viruses and affects the airways to the lungs. Bronchitis affects the larger airways, whereas bronchiolitis affects the smaller ones. So when treating it, you focus on monitoring the baby's breaths per minute, because when they are suffering, their chest becomes very tight and then they struggle to breathe. And then they have to work extra harder to take a breath. So normally it should be around 40 to 60 breaths per minute. Now they are breathing this hard because they're not getting enough oxygen to their lungs. And the amount of oxygen that they are getting can be monitored by looking at the oxygen saturation levels. So they have an apparatus for this at the hospital. I actually bought a home monitor one during the peak of COVID so that we can test our oxygen saturation levels. So I've never used it. It's interesting now to learn about all of this. So for newborn, the SAT, as they call it in the ward, should be above 90%. If it's lower, then that means your baby needs additional oxygen supply. And the reason for baby not getting enough oxygen to his through his airways is because of the virus affecting it in the form of a type of mucus or something. You want to make the mucus, like substance, loose so that it can come out in the form of them coughing, and then either baby will swallow the slime or he will, vomit it out. They would nebulize baby every 4 hours, and together with the nebulizer, they would also put nasal spray every 4 hours. And then in the morning and in the evening, they would put nasal drops in his nose. And to assist with loosening the mucus-like stuff that is on baby's lungs and causing it to be so tight, they lay baby on his side, and then they would smack him between the shoulder blades at the back. They did it for 5 minutes on each side, and you can also do it at home. So the same way you would pat for a burp to come out, the same hand that you use at the back of baby, just place that hand higher up between the shoulder blades. If he gets a wet cough, then that's a good sign. It means that it's working. As the lady explained to me, is that you would rather want him to be wet, his chest and the sound that he makes should be wet as opposed to a wheezing sound, because the wheezing sound indicates that it's tight and they are struggling to breathe. The morning of day 4, doctor came and he said baby was out of harm's way and that he can come home. We can just continue the treatment, the nebulizer, the nasal drops, and the nasal spray at home. This experience taught me a lot, not just from a medical perspective, but also to rather be safe than sorry. There is no such thing as a paranoid parent. They are our everything. So we are allowed to be paranoid. I'm happy to report baby is doing much, much better. He's breathing well, he's drinking well, he's active, and he seems happy. Oh, and remember, bespoke Janae.